Ryan Cole was not the kind of man who liked surprises. After years in the military, he had learned one simple rule: when something looked too easy, it usually meant trouble. But that morning, sitting in a half-empty spaceport cafe, the job offer on his datapad seemed almost laughable. Escort 2 alien women from Port Avalon to the capital city of Thrill's moon. 3 days of travel, no stops except for fuel. Payment 50,000 credits on arrival. He read the offer again, just to be sure his tired eyes weren't playing tricks on him. The amount was insane for such a simple escort mission. For that much money, he could buy a small ship, retire from odd jobs, maybe even settle on a quiet colony. Still, there was something strange about the details. The request didn't list the names of the clients, only twin sisters, species, Thrillian. No mention of why they needed a human escort, or why they couldn't just hire local guards. Ryan leaned back in his chair, staring at the rain streaking down the cafe window. Jobs like this didn't come without hidden hooks. But his bank account was almost empty, and his ship repairs had drained the last of his savings. Easy money or not, he couldn't afford to walk away. He accepted the contract, sent the confirmation, and within minutes, a reply appeared on his screen. Clients will meet you in Dock 14 within the hour. When he arrived, Dock 14 was quieter than usual. The kind of quiet that made the back of his neck itch. 2 figures stood near the boarding ramp of a sleek silver transport, their faces hidden under deep hoods. Even with their heads covered, he could tell they were tall, graceful, and moved in perfect sync. As he approached, one of them lifted her hood, revealing smooth, pale blue skin, bright violet eyes, and hair the color of silver dust. She smiled faintly, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "You must be Ryan Cole," she said, her voice soft but carrying an accent that curled around each word. "That's me," Ryan replied, keeping his tone neutral. "And you are?" The second twin pulled back her hood as well, her features identical to the first, but her expression sharper, more guarded. "I am Lyra. This is my sister Nysa," she said. "We appreciate you taking this job." Ryan noticed they carried no visible luggage, just small satchels slung across their shoulders. For a 3-day trip, that was unusual. He also noticed they kept glancing over his shoulder, as if checking for someone. "You ready to board?" Ryan asked, wanting to get moving before the spaceport crowd grew. "Yes," Nysa said quickly. "We should leave at once." Once inside the transport, Ryan ran a quick scan of the cargo bay and cabins. The ship was clean, stocked with enough food and water for a week. Everything looked normal to normal. They departed quietly, the engines humming as the spaceport faded into the distance. For the first hour, the twins sat together, whispering in their own language. Ryan caught fragments of sound, soft, melodic, almost like a song, but the words meant nothing to him. After a while, he decided to break the silence. "So, why me?" he asked, glancing at them in the rearview display. "You could have hired any Thrillian guard, but you asked for a human." Nysa's lips curved into a small smile. "Because you are different," she said. "Different how?" Ryan asked. Narrowing his eyes, neither sister answered. Instead, they returned to their whispering, their eyes flicking toward him in a way that made his skin prickle. By the time night cycle began, the unease in Ryan's gut had grown. He had been in enough dangerous situations to know when someone was keeping secrets. But he reminded himself, 3 days, deliver them, collect the credits, and walk away. As he set the autopilot for cruise speed, a faint light flashed on the ship's radar, a small blip following at a steady distance. Probably just another vessel on the same route, he told himself, but he didn't quite believe it. When he checked again an hour later, the blip was still there, exactly the same distance behind. Ryan felt the weight of the twins' silent stares as he pretended nothing was wrong. Something told him this escort job wasn't going to end the way he expected, and deep down he suspected The twins knew exactly why. The second day began with silence. The kind that feels heavy in the air. Ryan had barely slept, his thoughts circling around the radar blip that had shadowed them the whole night. When he checked again, it was gone, but he didn't feel any relief. Sometimes disappearing was worse. Then following, the twins moved quietly around the cabin. Their eyes alert, scanning every corner as if expecting something to crawl out of the shadows. Ryan decided to press them again. If you two know something about who might be following us, now's the time to say it, he said. His voice was calm. But his hand rested near the side holster on his belt. Lyra met his gaze, holding it for a moment before saying, "There are people who don't want us to reach the capital." Keza glanced at her sister sharply, as if she'd said too much. Then turned to Ryan. "And they may not want you to reach it either." That answer only raised more questions. Ryan had escorted smugglers, runaways, and even alien nobles before. But this was the first time clients acted like he was the one in danger. The memory of their constant whispering returned to him, the way they'd studied his face like it was part of some puzzle. They stopped at a refueling station on the edge of a mining colony. The air there smelled of dust and hot metal workers. Moved quickly, eyes down, as if afraid to look too long at strangers. The twins stayed close to him, too close, their shoulders brushing his every time he moved. It wasn't fear. He realized it was possession, a strange, quiet claim over his presence. As they walked back toward the ship, Ryan's instincts screamed. A shadow broke from the crowd, moving fast. He spun, hand already on his weapon, but before he could draw, Nisa stepped in front of him. Speaking sharply in her own language, the figure froze, glared, then slipped back into the crowd without a word. Ryan didn't like it. "Friend of yours?" he asked. Nisa's expression didn't change. "No," she said. "Enemy of ours." The moment they were back in the air, Ryan knew the calm wouldn't last. The twins spoke less now. Their earlier whispers replaced by silent glances each time he caught them looking at him, they didn't look away. It wasn't flirtation, it was calculation. That night, as Ryan drifted near sleep in the pilot's chair, a faint sound stirred him. Bare feet on the metal floor, the scent of something sweet in the air. Lyra was standing just behind him, her silver hair falling forward like a curtain. She didn't speak, didn't move closer, just looked at him with those violet eyes that seemed to hold more questions than answers. Then she turned and walked away, her shadow melting into the dim corridor. Ryan stayed awake the rest of the night, not because he feared an attack from outside, but because he was starting to realize the real mystery might be sitting inside his own ship. By the next morning, Ryan had decided one thing: he was done letting the twins control the pace of answers. The longer he stayed in the dark, the more dangerous this job became. He set the course for the capital, but locked the navigation, so only he could change it. If they wanted to play games, they'd do it on his terms. The twins didn't argue. Instead, they exchanged a quiet look and sat together at the far end of the cabin. Their heads leaned close, voices too soft to hear, but their eyes flicked toward him in a way that felt deliberate. Ryan knew when someone was testing him, and this was a test. A sudden warning light flashed on the console. An automated checkpoint was ahead. A deep scan zone. Ships passing through were inspected for illegal cargo, dangerous substances, and, more importantly, flagged passengers. Ryan's stomach tightened. If they scanned his DNA, it would link back to missions he'd rather not explain. Before he could say anything, Nisa appeared beside him. "Turn here," she said, pointing to a narrow vector that curved away from the checkpoint. "There is another path." Ryan frowned. "Through what?" Lyra answered from behind. "Underground tunnels." Ryan almost laughed. "You want me to fly through the old mining shafts?" "Those things are unstable." Nisa's gaze didn't waver. "Better unstable rock than certain capture." Reluctantly, He veered the ship toward the coordinates they gave. Soon the darkness swallowed them. The tunnels were massive, carved long ago by machines the size of skyscrapers. Faint glimmers of mineral veins streaked the walls, casting ghostly reflections across the cockpit halfway through the ships. Sensors pinged movement ahead. Ryan slowed, eyes narrowing as shapes emerged from the shadows. A swarm of small craft hovered in the tunnel. Blocking the path, their designs were jagged, improvised, and marked with the red sigil of tunnel raiders. Before Ryan could reverse, the cum crackled. A deep voice speaking in a language he didn't understand. Lyra stepped forward, answering sharply. Her tone was controlled, but Ryan noticed the subtle tremor in her hands. The raiders didn't move aside. Instead, one ship drifted closer, its lights sweeping over the cockpit. And Ryan realized with a cold twist in his gut they weren't here for the twins. They were here for him. Lyra leaned toward him, her voice low. "Do not open the hatch, no matter what they say." Ryan's fingers hovered over the throttle. His soldier's instincts screamed that this was no ordinary shakedown. And in that moment, he understood something whatever the twins were hiding. It had already painted a target on his back. The raiders didn't fire. Not yet. They circled. Slowly. Their ships pressing closer until the tunnel walls seemed to close in around them. Ryan's grip tightened on the controls. The twins stood behind him, silent, watching the movements like they'd seen this dance before. Then, without warning, the raiders pulled back, one by one, disappearing into side passages. Ryan didn't trust it. He waited a full minute before pushing the throttle forward. The ship's engines roared softly in the confined space. And soon they emerged into the open night sky above a dense alien forest. The air shimmered faintly as they descended. Strange glowing plants covering the canopy-like constellations fallen to the ground. Ryan landed on a patch of soft moss, powering down the ship. He stepped out cautiously, his boots sinking into the damp earth. "This isn't the capital," he said flatly. Looking at the towering blue trees, Nysa stepped forward, her eyes catching the light from the plants. "No," she admitted. "It's where we were always going." Ryan stared at her. "You lied to me?" Lyra didn't deny it. "We brought you here because you're the only one who can pass through the gates." "What gates?" Ryan asked, but before they could answer, a sound rolled through the forest to low. Rhythmic pounding, like distant drums, shapes began to appear between the trees. Tall alien figures in layered ceremonial armor, their faces hidden by carved masks. The twins knelt instantly, their heads bowed. Ryan stayed on his feet, his eyes sweeping the approaching warriors. The leader stopped before him, towering and silent. Then he spoke in accented Terran. "You are the chosen male." Ryan almost laughed. "You've got the wrong guy," but the warriors didn't seem to hear. Two of them stepped forward, placing their hands firmly on his shoulders, guiding him toward a stone archway covered in glowing script. As they reached it, the twins rose and followed, their expressions unreadable. Ryan could feel the weight of the moment pressing in. Whatever this was, he wasn't just an escort anymore. He was at the center of something ancient, and possibly dangerous, and deep inside. A part of him wondered if he had ever been given a choice at all. The stone archway pulsed with faint light, the symbols shifting like they were alive. Ryan hesitated, every instinct telling him to turn back, but the warrior's grip was unshakable. The twins walked just behind him, their footsteps matching perfectly, as if they'd rehearsed this moment their whole lives. They entered a wide clearing surrounded by towering crystal pillars. At the center stood a circular platform carved from black stone. A dozen elders in robes waited there, their eyes reflecting the glow from the crystals. One of the elders raised a hand. "The trial begins," he said, his voice deep enough to make the ground tremble. Ryan shot the twins a look. Trial. You didn't say anything about a trial. Lyra stepped closer, her voice low. Win, and you will live. Nice's eyes narrowed. Lose, and you will not leave here. Before Ryan could reply, the platform beneath his feet shifted. Stone. Plates sliding apart to reveal a dark pit below. From it rose a beast unlike anything he'd seen, a massive creature with silver hide and burning amber eyes. Its claws dug furrows into the rock, its growl thick with hunger. Ryan's pulse quickened. He had no weapons, only his training and the environment around him. The elders watched without emotion, the twins with something else: anticipation. Maybe fear, maybe both. The beast lunged. Ryan dove aside. Rolling across the platform, the ground shook as claws scraped where he'd stood a heartbeat earlier. He spotted a loose shard of crystal near the edge, grabbed it, and spun to face the creature. The shard caught the light, flashing in the beast's eyes, buying him a single opening. He drove the crystal into the creature's neck. It roared, thrashing wildly, then collapsed with a sound like falling stone. Silence fell over the clearing. The elders rose, speaking in their language. The twins stepped forward, each taking one of Ryan's hands. You have passed, Lyra whispered. Nice's grip tightened. Now, you belong to us. Ryan pulled his. Hands free, I came here to escort you, not to. He stopped as the elders approached, one holding a silver band etched with the same shifting script as the gate. Without asking, they placed it on his wrist, the metal fusing instantly with his skin. It was cold, heavy, and it hummed like it had a heartbeat. Ryan didn't know what it meant, but the twins did. They exchanged a small, knowing smile. The silver band on Ryan's wrist felt heavier with each step as they left the crystal clearing. It wasn't just metal, it was a mark, a claim. Something binding him to rules he didn't understand. The twins walked close on either side, not speaking, their eyes scanning the shadows like danger might rise from the forest floor. By nightfall, they had set up camp beneath the shelter of a giant root system. The air was damp, carrying the distant sound of running water. Ryan kept his distance, sitting by the fire, turning the band on his wrist again and again. The metal was warm now, as if reacting to his thoughts. When he looked up, he caught the twins arguing in hushed voices. Lyra's tone was sharp, her hands moving quickly as she gestured toward him. Nisa shook her head, her expression hard. Ryan couldn't make out the words, but he didn't need to. He knew the rhythm of a fight about trust. Later, when the twins went to rest, Ryan stayed awake, watching the fire burn low. That's when he heard its soft footsteps approaching from the trees. He rose silently, hand on his knife. A shadow broke from the foliage, one of the masked warriors from the trial. The figure raised both hands in peace, then pointed at Ryan's wrist. They will keep you only as long as they need you. The voice was low, urgent. When the ceremony is done, you will be nothing to them. Ryan didn't move, then why warn me? The warrior's mask tilted, because one of them already wants you dead. Before Ryan could demand answers, the figure melted back into the darkness, the forest swallowing him whole. Ryan sat back down by the fire, his eyes on the twins. Sleeping forms, he didn't know which one the warning meant. And worse, he wasn't sure if he wanted to believe it. The last day of the journey began under a pale green sky. The forest thinned, giving way to smooth stone paths that seemed too perfect to be natural. The twins walked ahead without speaking, their movements slow, deliberate, as if each step carried weight. Ryan followed, the silver band on his wrist growing warmer with every meter. They reached a wide plaza carved into the mountainside. At its center stood a tall obsidian gate, guarded by more of the masked warriors. The elders were there too, waiting, their eyes fixed on Ryan like he was the only person in the world. This is it, Lyra said softly. Her voice had a strange finality to it. Nysa glanced at her sister, then at Ryan. "When we pass through, our clan will be restored." Ryan frowned. "And me? What happens to me after?" Lyra's lips parted, but no words came. Nysa stepped closer, her gaze steady. "You stay." The elders raised their staffs, chanting words that made the air vibrate. The silver band on Ryan's wrist flared with light. Locking him in place, he felt a pull. Like invisible chains wrapping around his body, the twins moved to either side of him, their hands resting lightly on his arms. But then, something shifted. Lyra leaned in, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't want this." Ryan turned his head, catching the fear in her eyes. Before he could respond, she pulled a small blade from her sleeve and sliced across the silver band. Sparks burst into the air, the metal cracking. The chanting stopped. The elders shouted in their language. Warriors surged forward. Nysa grabbed Ryan's arm, her eyes wild. "Run." They broke into a sprint, weaving between stone pillars, arrows clattering against the ground behind them. The gate loomed ahead. And Ryan didn't think he'd just push them through. On the other side, the air was cooler, cleaner. The mountains were gone, replaced by the familiar skyline of a distant port city. The twins collapsed to their knees, breathing hard. Ryan stood over them, catching his breath. "This isn't over," he said. His voice was calm, but his mind was already turning. He didn't know if the twins had saved him or trapped him again, but one thing was certain: whatever they had in mind from the beginning, it was only the start.